Hi, welcome to another video. This is Mr. Chow from EnglishTuition.org. Now today's video will be short and sweet because I'm just going to share a couple of stories for two students of mine, right? And as you know, we have just received the O-levels results yesterday, okay? So let's get started. First of all, congratulations to all the students who have received your O-level results. So this is an important milestone for you. You have graduated from secondary school. The results have met your expectations. Do go ahead and celebrate, but also do be mentally prepared to move on to the next phase of your life. So for this video, I would like to share the stories for two of my students as usual. So the subscribers who have been on my channel, they know that this is the time of the year where I get to share stories, right, and share the results of some of my students. So hopefully you find something interesting and you can learn from the stories as well. So the first story that I have to share is for this student. We'll call her AM, right? She managed to achieve a B3. Now, for those who are new to the channel, right, B3 is quite a common result for many of my students. Simply because of the profile of the students, many of them, those who come, B4C, and they wish to strengthen their English to hopefully get a B3 and above, right? Almost 8 out of 10 students manage to achieve that, right? Now, the other big category of students who usually come to me, those students who are failing, they are more challenging to teach. They may not achieve B3, right? Later, you'll learn from the stories as well. So she started out with a C5, B4, kind of grade in school, and she wanted to get a B3 for prelims. If I remember correctly, she managed to attain a B4, right? But she's not that far off from her B3, just like a couple of marks off. And then for her O-levels, she managed to attain a B3, right? So obviously the family is happy, she is happy, right? But for these students, she already got a course in the Polytechnic, right? Through some direct admission scheme. She went for the interview and she's very clear about what she wanted. So she already had a place, right? So all she needs to do is to clear her O-levels, right? But I challenge her to get, to beat her own personal best, right? To get good grades despite having an allocated place in a Polytechnic, right? So this is a form of a self-challenge, right? So if not, for those students who already gotten a place, they might feel too relaxed and get too complacent, right? And end up not getting their desired grades. So all in all, this is a happy story, right? Everybody is happy. I'm happy. I'm very proud of her, and she's ready to move on to the next phase of her life. So congrats again. Now for the next student, let's call him KD. This is an interesting story as well. She managed to get a C6. So don't judge the grade and say, what's the big deal about C6, right? And for some students, C6 is a big deal, right? Because they did not start off with a very strong foundation, and they have been struggling with the subject for a very long time. So the minimum grade they want to attain is just a C6 so that they can qualify for many of the courses that are available in Poly, right? If they fail, then it's going to be very problematic, and some courses don't even look at your admission, your admissions, right? Simply because you don't get at least a C6 for English. So you need to meet the minimum admission criteria before to be even seriously considered for the courses. So for him, this is actually good news because this is a Sec 5 student, and she started off with N-levels B4. So it's quite common for N-level B4 to drop down to a C6, and it isn't unheard of before for students because N-levels usually they need some degree of coaching, right? Otherwise, the language skills just regress and you just get from bad to worse. So it's not unheard of before that students who get B in N-levels end up failing the O-levels, right? Because they didn't have the coaching that they needed, and there's a jump in standard, and that's the worst case scenario, and we want to try to avoid that at all costs. And it happened to some of my students before, right? N-levels before and end up getting a D7 for English. There are still some engineering courses in Poly, even if you get a D7, but I think getting a C6, at least a pass in O levels, will really boost the confidence of the student. All right, and like I said, if you apply to a lot of Poly courses, C6 will help you avoid a lot of problems, right? Because there are some courses with the minimum admission criteria. English need at least a C6. For this student, what's interesting about him is that, well, she's coming for lessons like all the other students, but near the prelims period, right, or even I think slightly after the prelims, he injured his leg, right, during PE lesson, right. I think fractured his knee or something and had to go for surgery. So that's a blow to the student because it affects his revision. All right, and he's not able to attend school for a certain number of days, and even after the surgery, and when he needs to be hospitalized for a few days, right, and then after being discharged, he is walking on crutches, right, and he has difficulty moving around in school, and that affected his morale quite a bit, right. So I quickly came up with he didn't couldn't make it for my lessons, right, obviously because he had difficulty moving around. So we quickly pivoted from physical lessons, face-to-face lessons, to online lessons, right. So I came up with a plan. These are the lessons that he needed to go through before he goes sit for his O levels, right. Because if I didn't do that, his morale would have tanked, right. Who knows what would have happened, right. The C6 would be gone. Okay, that's our minimum target, C6, right. But he's not attending lessons, he's feeling very low, okay, and he's not doing his work properly, okay. So it would certainly have affected his performance. So on hindsight, it was the right decision to push him, right, to get him to attend the lessons, so that online lessons, right, so that I can talk to him, right. So I still remember during the last lesson, right, I gave him a very stern talk, and hopefully get him to buck up a little bit more, right. And I think he did well. He pushed himself, right, and he at least got a C6 for his O levels, right. So congratulations. Okay. So now, when I was messaging him, he was happily shopping for a suitable course in a Polytechnic, right. So C6 for some students is not a bad grade at all. I remember many years ago, I was teaching a student also from N-levels, went to Sec 5, eventually got a C6. He got admitted into computer engineering because he is very strong in maths. Okay, and he already graduated from Poly. I think by now he already finished serving his NS. I think he's happily working somewhere. Okay, so for C6, this is not a bad result, right? Don't think that if you get a C6, meaning you are very weak in studies and you have nowhere to go. That's not true, because you have other strengths, right? The goal to get C6 as a minimum is to at least clear the admission criteria for these students, so that they are eligible, right, at least for some of the engineering courses that are available out there. Okay, so later in the video, we'll take a look at some of these websites that will give an indication of whether the student is eligible for Poly, ITE, or JC. Okay, so those are the different pathways, because at this point, I believe students are thinking where to go next, right? So you have ITE, and usually the requirements is you need minimum 3 O levels, right, in order to be considered for one of the courses. And most of the students would have gone for Poly courses, right? And that depends on the cutoff point for your English, best relevant 2 subjects, and best 2 subjects, so total 5 subjects for Polytechnic, right? And for JC is still the usual, always based on L1. L1 is English and L1 R5. And for JC, your English must be at least a C6. If you fail, even you get straight A's for all the other subjects, maybe you can appeal, who knows, right? But on paper, at least you must get a C6. All right. So I'll leave the links and the resources in the video description, but let's try to go over the websites, and then we will come back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so first of all, students can consider going for the ITE courses. I think nowadays ITE courses are not bad as well. There's a place at least for the students to go to, and if they do well enough, they can proceed to higher NITEC, and if they continue to score like very good grades, right, maybe be considered for Poly as well, right? So ITE is not a dead end anymore. It's a very good school. Okay, but if you look at just for example purposes, right, the minimum entry requirement. Now, minimum doesn't mean if you meet the minimum, you will get admitted into the course automatically, because meeting the minimum simply means that you can apply. But still, don't forget that you are in competition with all the rest of the students. So the higher your grades, the higher your chances of being admitted. Right? You look at the minimum requirements. You need at least 3 O levels, right? Grade 1 to 8. So even if you fail your English language, and if you take that into consideration, you can still apply for the course, right? In this case, is the other subject is grade 1 to 7 in mathematics, either E-Maths or A-Maths, and then grade 1 to 8 in one of the following subjects, right? And that's the minimum entry requirement for biotechnology and chemical technology, right? So I want to go through further this PDF file, right, from the ITE. I'll just leave the link in the video description, right? If you are considering ITE courses, feel free to check out the official sources, right? Now, the next pathway that students can consider is the Polytechnic courses, right? And then there are useful websites that actually give out the recent cutoff points, right? In this case, Polytechnic courses cutoff point for the last year's intake. So you can use this as a reference to see whether you qualify. So this is EL English, relevant 2 subjects and best 2 subjects in total. So you can tell, right, certain courses are very competitive. Best 5 12, right? AI and data engineering 9, applied chemistry 9, right? But if you did not do very well but you still manage to get a full cert, you have your EL to B2 to be above 20, right? There are still some courses for you as well, right? Like common engineering and infocom, media engineering, right? And then you look at the different polytechnics and you can scroll through the entire list. Singapore Polytechnic, civil engineering, 20 marks, 20 points, right? You can apply for it. Maritime business, maritime or marine engineering, 22, 18 respectively. And then Temasek Polytechnic, this polytechnic, it has got usually quite low cutoff points because it's very competitive, right? Again, common engineering, 22, right? Integrated facility management, 20, and so on and so forth, right? Republic Poly, right? Aerospace engineering, 26, right? Aviation management, 25. Again, business information systems, 26. Common business program, 26. So definitely there are some diploma courses that students can go for, okay, even if they score 20 points and above, right, for their best 5 subjects. Now, what about those who can study very well and want to pursue the JC route, right, and go for JCs, right? Again, we refer to the same website, junior colleges cutoff point for last year's intake, right, depending on whether you want to go for the science stream or the art stream, okay? And then here are all the JCs and the cutoff point, and then you just see whether you have a good chance of making the cut. If so, can considering applying to those JC as well. Now, Millennium Institute is a 3-year program instead of a 2-year program, and usually the cutoff point is lower. So even if you're getting like 15, 16 and you want to pursue A levels, right, you can consider Millennium Institute, or let's see, Catholic JC, right, or Jurong Pioneer JC, right, Arts 17. And strong languages, you can consider the arts, right? Okay, so there's no right or wrong. You just want to make sure that you choose a pathway and a course that are most suitable for yourself and that plays to your strength, right? And with that said, I come to the end of the video. Once again, congrats to all those who have received your O-levels results. I hope you end up some place where you're happy and you can find fulfillment, right? And for those who are still going to take their national exams and you're serious about improving your English, do consider signing up for lessons. I think for this year, we have very few slots left. I think most of the slots are almost fully taken up. But anyway, do check out the website for more details for the fees and schedule. Also do consider O-Levels online course. Also more details available at the website. So with that said, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye bye.